this is Jamie Magritte. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. It's a pretty simple card, but bring in my supplies. Excuse me. Okay, the first thing I have is a couple of die cuts that I cut out from the dies for the flower. I have a piece of the Forever Gold Specialty Designer Series paper and a bow. This was white and I colored it with the I think I colored it with the Granny Apple marker. Might have been Old Olive, I don't remember. It was from a while ago. Then I have 3 scraps. I have pear pizzaz, Granny Apple green, and Old Olive. They're just an 1/8 piece of the cardstock, I believe. I have a piece of Whisper White, which is 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of pear pizzaz, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. A piece of basic black, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. My thick card base. This time I did a different fold. I did 5 1/2 by 11, or 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to be using the flowering blooms and the flowering dies that coordinates with it. I'm using this flower and this die that I've already cut those out with. The Ornate Floral 3D embossing folder and my Stamparatus. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this flower. What I have previously done is I've taken my blank from the negative space from where I cut the die out of, and I taped it into my Stamparatus. And then I positioned my stamp so that it's inside of that die and picked it up with my plate. So when I put my die back in here and I go to stamp it, it should be in the right spot. And you can do multiples. I do have a quick tip video showing exactly how I did this. If I can figure it out, I'll put a card up. Alright, see? Perfect stamp. Hardest part is getting it back out. You can do multiples, so I might as well go ahead and do another one, show you. Get it inked up well, you should have no issues. Make sure it's down in there. And stamp. Perfect. Alright, get this out. And I'm going to just put a scratch paper in there so move this out of the way. Alright, so now let's go ahead and color one of these. Now my original card, I did it in yellow. And then I was thinking my yellow Stampin' Blends are dry. I need to order some new ones. So this one I was plain and I colored it with my Copic markers. So I thought of a different color combination. I think I'm going to do it purple. So I'm going to use the Highland Heather and light Granny Apple green. And in case I forgot to tell you, I used Tuxedo Black to stamp with. I apologize. The Memento. Okay, so I'm going to dark Highland Heather. I'm going to do the light first. I'm going to color the entire flower with the light. I don't need to do both of these. You saw me color one of these in another video, but I don't remember what colors I used. Okay, so I colored the whole thing, and you could leave it like that because it has all the definition from the stamp. But then I came in with my dark, and I just flicked in a little bit of the darker where the dark shadows are in the stamp. Just adds just a little bit something else. If your ink is still wet, it's going to blend and bleed a little bit on its own. Just be careful not to oversaturate your paper, because then it will bleed outside of the lines. Almost done here. Okay. You could go back in with the light if you want and blend that a little bit. You don't have to. Looks pretty good like it is. Okay, then I'm going to go in with the green. Oh, I forgot that flower there, and I'm going to color in the leaves with the light granny apple green. And I already did one, so just for the sake of time, I'm going to pull that one in. This one doesn't have quite as much definition. I didn't add quite as much, but let's use that one. Okay, so let's set that aside. I'm going to bring in my green pieces. And I'm going to do a tearing. I'm just going to tear, and for this instance, it really doesn't matter which way you tear. I'm just going to tear some squares. And you want your finished square, let's see, doesn't really matter 100% because they're all a little bit different. It's about 2.5 inches, between 2 and 2.5 inches. And then they're 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches. But you're just going to tear squares. It doesn't really matter how big, or because you're just going to put them on as a background. The teared edge just gives a little bit of something else. Okay, there's one. Tear those edges. Okay, so we've got our 3 rectangles, or squares. Put this in some of this will go in the trash. Okay, now we're going to bring in our white layer, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to arrange our squares on here how we want them. And we're going to glue them down with, it doesn't really matter. Let's use the seal for this instance. I'm going to use the plus. And I'm going to decide how I want these. I'm going to change up the colors. I'm going to do it like that. So I need this one to be down first. Now if you use the wet glue, try not to get it too close to the edge because we're going to run it through the embossing folder and you don't want it oozing out. And I'll glue this one next. Oops. Take that down. There. You could use the regular seal. I just grabbed one, so and this one here, and I'm varying the edge just to give it a little bit of movement on the page. It's just more pleasing to the eye. Okay, now I'm going to take that embossing folder and I'm going to put this in the embossing folder. And you want to figure out, you're going to want to put it so that the side that has the colored paper is facing up on the side that has the Stampin' Up! Logo. In this pattern it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to line it up with that line, close my folder, and go run it through my embossing folder, and I will be right back. Okay, I've run that through my cutting and embossing machine. It comes out like that. See the great texture on there, and it kind of helps to adhere all those little edges down. Okay. Now we're going to come in with some dimensionals. Get our flower. We're going to put some dimensionals on the back of it. I'm going to bring in a couple little ones too. One here, one here, one here. Okay. I'm going to take those backs off. Alright. Let's place that on our card. Now I'm going to divide this into 3 sections, and I'm going to want this to go right on that line where I divided it. So that my focal image is in that basic area. Now I'm going to bring in this piece and I'm going to cut it in half. Snips. Get a glue dot. And I'm going to roll that glue dot up. I need 2 of them, so I might as well do them both. Hopefully I can get it to stay there. It doesn't want to, so I'm going to stick it on the back of this. And I'm going to tuck that in there under the flower. Come on. Under the flower and stick it down. Let's do the same thing for this one, except it's going to go down at the bottom. See how I rolled up that glue dot? and it doesn't stick out quite as far. Let's stick this one down here. Okay, and then I've got a bow. I'm going to stick that bow on with a glue dot as well. Again, this was white grain ribbon I colored with my blends. I can't remember if I used Old Olive. It looks like it's Granny Apple. And then that's going to go on there. I've had it sitting around for quite a while, so that's why I can't remember what I used. Okay, let's layer this on top of the pear pizzaz layer. And there's just going to be a 1/16 of an inch border because it's an 1/8 of an inch difference between the white layer and the pear pizzaz layer. So I line up 3 sides. I'll go ahead and set it down. It's usually pretty accurate. Add a little bit of, oops, I want this one because I know this one's got glue in it. Add a little bit of wet glue to the end of this. It's just a little too loose. And I don't know if you can see it, I just put a little tiny bit of glue on the end of that. It's too delicate to be flapping around. Basically, I'm just using the glue that's on the end of my bottle. Alright. Now, this bow is wonky, but okay, that's better. Now I can add this to the black layer. This one doesn't need as much adhesive. And again, it's a 1/16 of an inch. Line up those 2 sides, line up this side, and set it down. Okay, now this is going to be the same size as the front of our card. Whoops. See if I can get it moved just a little bit. That's why I like the wet glue. I think I can still get it. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, well there's the card we just made together with the Highland Heather. Here's the one I did previous with the yellows. Which one do you prefer? I think they're both very pretty. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.